This was a good week of chapters, albeit a bit of a short one, seeing as how One Piece was on break, and with many of the cancellations, there's only 4 chapters I'll be talking about this week, which is fine. That's all there is for now. So we're going to be starting off with Black Clover, chapter 313, and this was a good chapter, showing more Yami backstory, showing him hiding out for a while after getting his grimoire and eventually being recruited by Julius. Eventually, we see that he makes friends with all of the captains and the 2 brothers, Morgan and Noct, and we see all the people he's connected with and the effect of Morgan's death that had on Noct as well as himself, and the explanation that he wants to make a Magic Knight squad for misfits, pretty much. It explains that that's what it was, showing how he did collect everyone and do a good job with what he does, as well as the fact that it seems as though the guild was as much for him as it was for the others. It is then seen that he wakes up and everyone seemingly rescued him. It seems as though, at least according to the end of this chapter, that they have won this battle. Will that stand? That is an excellent question, and I think the answer is no. Again, I don't really know what the last panel is referring to. There is a black line shooting down, and it seems a bit ominous. However, I have no idea what it's referring to. I imagine that this happy reunion won't last, and something bad will happen next week. This is just a big setup for that. As for this chapter, I thought it was good. Overall, I'll be giving it a B. Like I said, it was good. It showed more Yami character, backstory, and who he is, as well as how much the squad means to him and how much he means to them, as none of them will give up on him. And so it's a good moment. It's a good piece of storytelling, having it that they actually do succeed right before they fail. I don't know how they'll fail, but I have a hunch that they will. And that's why I don't think this happy reunion will last much longer. Now we're on to Undead Unluck, chapter 87, and this was a good chapter, seeing as how Andy is slowly but surely convincing Billy that Fuko is in fact an important piece to things, and this is what the crux of the chapter was about. Billy beginning to learn why everyone has such faith in Fuko. As Andy pointed out, that Fuko was able to change Unbreakable, which Billy had no thought to even try to do. As well as even Spring continues to get more and more attached to both Ishin and Fuko to a degree, and keeps getting these big painful spurts of basically mind control that keeps redirecting him onto his more natural course. And we get the next game, which is Karuta. 13-man Karuta. I don't know what that means. It's kind of like a match game. You have to match a phrase. Someone reads out the phrase and you have to match it to the second phrase that is on the floor on the card. And that is what they play. And there are 13, meaning that whoever has the majority will win. Whoever gets 7 wins. The strategy for Spring is to basically let Fuko show the answer and then scoop up the card before she can. And that's how it goes up until the penultimate card, where if Spring gets it, he wins. However, Fuko's plan was to continuously touch Spring to continue to charge up Unluck. And eventually at the end, she was able to prove that even her Unluck ability can touch God and change the facet of everything, as an Uma was affected by her Unluck, allowing her to get the card and to turn the tables in the game, showing that at least to a degree her Unluck is able to affect Uma's, meaning that it could potentially reach God. And that was the chapter. It was again good, showing the continued growth of Fuko and her resolve to get what she desires in the end, in a manner of speaking, as she wants to win in her own way and continue to connect with Spring. And it's because of her connection to Spring, in a way, as lightly as it is, she was able to perform a fairly strong unlock ability onto him by striking him with lightning. So overall, I'll be giving this chapter a B. It was good. It continued to show growth for Fuko, as well as Billy starting to see what everyone else sees in Fuko. Now, it looks like these battles will just now converge on this spring rooftop. No one else will pretty much be fighting at this point as they keep getting called into this battle. And so the last round will probably be spectated in a manner of speaking, more so than it already is, with everyone watching as Fuko goes probably in a way more one-on-one with Spring than any of the last few, where there won't be a surrogate. It'll be just him versus Fuko. Now we're on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, chapter 85, and this was another good chapter with the fight between Rose Quartz and Mash beginning. Having it that we learn that Rose Quartz's ability is magnetism. He uses it to great effect to continue to mess with Mash, but Mash is the ultimate cheat code and completely negates all of Rose Quartz magic to a degree, breaking the spiked ball and negating his magnetism by doing crazy and wacky things, eventually even outperforming him in his own attack and forming his iron wand into a baseball glove and sort of playing baseball against him to have it's all just a weird mishmash of just ridiculousness with Mash. In this fight, he was able to get the upper hand, at least for a moment, before Rose Quartz decided to step it up and lock Mash into an unbreakable void chamber and keep him there for as long as he wants, basically forever. Leading it to that, Dot and Lance now have to take on the two of the evil team, Rose Quartz and another partner that seemingly showed up out of nowhere, who are holding the key to unlock the void box. Mash, however, doesn't seem too concerned, as he is just simply standing in the void box as if nothing is going on. So I half imagine he'll break out somehow, and this fight won't be necessary. Overall, I'll be giving this chapter a B. It was good seeing the antics and ridiculousness of Mash versus Rose Quartz, and Rose Quartz being on the same level, which I wasn't surprised by, but, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. They were on the same level, and Rose Quartz was able to get the upper hand because he had two wands, and that's how he was able to summon the void box, because without it, the match would have continued, and Rose Quartz probably would have eventually lost. He might have even been able to see that, but using the box, it guarantees a win, so he just used it to make sure that Mash could not escape or win in any way, shape, or form. So we'll see if Lance and Dot can save Mash this time, or if Mash can save himself from the void box. So now we're on to Sakamoto Days, chapter 47, and this was a good chapter. Having it that, Sakamoto actually grew a bit because of the doctor doing whatever they did to him, made it that he couldn't lose the weight very quickly, and even explained that he was relying on the fact that he could slim down to win his fights without really learning or growing, and because of that, he had gotten weaker in a way. And so the doctor did what they did to keep it that he has to grow in his fat form. It made his body more used to his fatter form. And so with the fight, again, Sakamoto's pretty strong still, even in his bigger form. However, he's not quite overwhelmingly powerful. And so to a degree, Apart and him are on equal footing, which I think is almost shocking to Sakamoto. And so as the fight goes on, he realizes this, as Apart keeps telling him he's basically a slob. And Sakamoto realizes that the reason he's not changing back is because he needs to be more used to his normal form, meaning that now his skinny form is almost a power-up, which is actually going to be rather ridiculous, because once he realizes that he's not going to change and needs to find a way to win in his current shape, he starts dominating Apart and completely taking the fight to him and hardly even struggling by that point. And so now they're fighting on some steel beams, and the fight, it seems, is going to enter the next stage, where we are probably going to learn about who and what Apart is, which I don't think Sakamoto is going to care overly about. So overall, I'll give this chapter a B. It was good seeing the continued fight and the actual growth of Sakamoto, having it that he needs to learn how to fight while he's fat. That is an interesting twist I didn't necessarily see coming, and I wonder if at some point he'll mix the two. He'll be heavier than he once was, but thinner than he is now. That would be interesting, as things don't seem to be slowing down for him anytime soon. But for now, this fight was pretty good, and hopefully the fight either ends next week or we just continue on with how it's going. So that was all the major chapters that I read. They were all good, like I said, with each of them having something unique happen, from Black Clover having the perceived victory for the heroes, to Undead, where Fuko got at least a moral victory and showed her growth. Mashle had a turning point in their battle, where now it's up to Dot and Lance to save him, and Sakamoto was able to grow and get at least a round victory in his fight. As for the rest of what I read, Jujutsu Kaisen was fine. It was good, showing the continued fight and the continued moral battle within Itadori and his lawyer opponent. My Hero was fine, having it that Star and Stripe was able to counteract the ability that is All for One and the fact that she died. So it's whatever. It was fine. Elusive Samurai was good, having it that all the battlefields and battle plans had to shift and change as things continue to change across the battlefield, up until they're ambushed in the very end, leaving it that so much is up in the air that now the next few chapters should be very exciting to see how the main character is able to get away. Nero has unfortunately ended, and unlike the last few, this is a genuine ending. This could basically not really come back, as it skipped through and jumped 5 years into the future. This is the first one since basically Zip Man and Guardian of the Witch that genuinely just ended, which I was really shocked by. I thought it was just going to let it ride and have it that the conclusion of that battle and that they would look forward to the excitement of the next year, but I guess the author just didn't really love this tale in the same way that I thought they might have. That's me just projecting that, because there's no proof of it. But the fact that he jumped ahead like that, I was very surprised. I thought the ending was fine, but not what I would have expected. So as a whole, the series itself was good, and it had a good amount of potential to be a fairly fun one, but I think with its ending being as conclusive as it was, I would just give the series a C. It was fine, left so many open questions and what could have been, but the series as a whole was just fine. I would almost say you could probably pass it, because nothing really happened. It's a shame. It could have been pretty good. The Yozakura family was good, as we get sort of the first general, quote-unquote, of the first head of the family that they are going to have to keep versing to get to the final villain of the whole series. At least what I presume to be the final villain. So that should be good. The fights should be ramping up, as now we have an actual villain to verse. Blue Box was fine, continuing its trajectory to just being the romance. Now they're putting distance between each other. She'll probably not do all that well in the basketball tournament, but they might win. They'll all be worried about her. The boy will probably struggle at badminton as he's distracted. The gymnastics girl will struggle. Everything is just gonna fall apart until they finally get back onto a neutral field where they're all friends or something or other. It'll be fine. Now, one I haven't talked about in a while is the P series, where it's basically the piano one. I don't really know how to call it anything else than that. And this one I really enjoy, because it's basically something that I thought was a good idea. Basically taking music and making it a sports manga, if that makes sense. Taking a musician and turning into that. Where here every pianist has a quote-unquote ability to win their fights. It is actually very captivating, as well as all the struggles each pianist is going through. So that one's actually one I would very much keep my eye on, because I think it has a lot of good potential to it, and they seem to like it, but it's still very early, so I'm going to hold off on really delving into it. Spy Family was good. It was a nothing chapter, but of the family continuing to bond together, which will only make their eventual collapse and reveal of who they all really are all the more heartbreaking whenever that inevitability happens. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the new one, the new series that showed up, Ayashimon, I think it is. And the series itself has probably the most potential I've seen so far. Now, many of the others, ITLC and the Hunters Guild, I thought had really nice potential for some really great and interesting new stories. Ashiman absolutely feels like a Shonen Jump manga that could last 1,000 chapters if they really wanted to go with it. It feels right into the ballpark of what's missing, which is a ridiculous action comedy that they haven't had outside of like One Piece and Black Clover. So having a new one there with an absolutely ridiculous main character and a just as ridiculous main female lead, it should be an absolute treat to see where this goes if it lasts anything more than 20 chapters, as it's going to be fight heavy. It's going to be power manipulation, not within like superpowers, but as the main female lead tries to work her way up through the Yakuza ranks to become the head leader of the district. There's a lot there that could really make the series great, and I look forward to seeing if it actually lives up to that potential or if it falls flat on its face, just like half the other series have thus far this year and even last year. So that is now all the chapters that I read. I thought they were all very good and I enjoyed everything. I thought it was all just a good, very solid week of chapters. Nothing really stood out. Nothing was really great outside of the new Ashiman, but I look forward to next week. One Piece should be back. I don't think anything else is on break, but yeah, this was a good week as a whole, and hopefully next week is just as good, if not better, with the return of One Piece. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and as always, thank you for watching.